Hello everybody, welcome to the Desolation Sounds podcast. My name is Stephen Hook and this is a podcast celebrating everything to do, most things to do, with the world of alternative music, be that rock, metal, punk, or even extreme metal if you ask really nicely. I don't care, it's the Christmas season. I'll do what I want. Coming up on this week's show, just album reviews from Beartooth and their album Disease. Former Turbonegro frontman Hank Von Hell is back in the music world with Egomania, and Bury Tomorrow with Black Flame. But first, the news, and Bring Me the Horizon frontman, I feel like I'm blasting through this a lot. I've realised I've left everything to the end of the day. I've got people due home soon, and I need to go for a work meal, so if it sounds like I'm rushing, it's because I am. Anyways, Bring Me Horizon frontman Oli Sykes has said that modern rock music that is soft, miserable, and boring. This coming from a man who not long ago released That's the Spirit. He says rappers are among... Oh, fuck me. I'll try that again. Rappers are almost the new rock and roll or punk or whatever. Rock's gone soft and it's gone miserable and boring. There's not really much exciting about it. So it's important that we cross over because we feel like we belong more in a place where people just like music and not about how heavy it is. Almost feel like those two comments contradict each other, but never mind. It is a daft statement, to be honest. It really is. Just looking at the kind of music that's come out this year shows that rock music is not scared or frightened or anything at all. Look at Marmoset, look at Zealand Ardor. The three albums I'm going to do today, like the Bury Tomorrow, just British music in general. Okay, so let's forget about Zealand Ardor. You got Marmoset, you got Bury Tomorrow, you got Black Peaks. None of those like bands are anything less than just super interesting music right now. They are not your clean cut, boring X plus Y plus Z like how Count Your Blessings was, for example. They are all doing something really, really interesting and trying to blend as much together as possible. So, Oli Sykes, you're a dafty. This year's Grammy nominations have been announced. Grammys don't tend to be very friendly to the world of alternative music, but they have like their own separate rock category, and the lineups aren't looking too bad. So just for rock, so for best rock performance, you've got Arctic Monkeys with 4 out of 5. Chris Cornell with When Bad Goes Good. The Fever 333 with Made in America, and Greta Van Fleet with Highway Tune, and Hailstorm with Uncomfortable. For that, there's a lot of... Arctic Monkeys is a very Grammy band. Stripe is a very Grammy band. Chris Cornell, they might just go for... It sounds really cynical, but they might go for the tug an old heartstring thing. I can't see it going to Fever 333, and I absolutely can't see it going to Hailstorm. Possibly Greta Van Fleet. Everyone's been going nuts over them. They are like the second coming of... I was going to say Lynyrd Skynyrd then, that was very off. Led Zeppelin. But yeah, if I had to pick... This is the thing with Grammys. You can never... It's pointless to try and guess. Because it would be that as a guess. You have no idea how they work things, and they're like Ollie, and they just don't know what's going on. Best metal performance, which actually is not a bad selection. Between a Bear and Me with Contempt of the Gallows, which is a fucking great song. Death Heaven with Honeycomb. High on Fire with Electric Messiah. Trivium with Betrayer, which is a very good shout. And Under Oath with On My Teeth. Again, based on Grammys, when it comes to like rock and metal and that kind of thing, they tend to go for what's caused the most activity online. Not necessarily the worst or the best, just what's caused the most amount of opinions. For me, I think that will go to Death Heaven. If I had to choose, I think Content of the Gallows is a fucking stupendous song, and Betrayer as well is just fantastic. But I think Honeycomb by Death Heaven will nab that one. Best rock song, Greta Van Fleet again with Black Smoke Rising. 21 Jumpsuits. Is it 21? Fuck me, why can't I do anything? 21 Pilots with Jumpsuit. Bring Me the Horizon with Mantra. St. Vincent with Mass Abduction. Never even heard of them. And Ghost with Rats. Again, Ghosts have caused the most amount of like talk over the past 12 months or so. I can see they're going to 21 Pilots. Why do I keep calling 21 Jumpsuits? Just because 21 Pilots are one of the biggest things going right now. And best rock album, Alice in Chains, Rain in Fog, Fall Out Boy, Mania. If Mania win it, I'm going to be so fucking angry. Ghost Prequel, Greta Van Fleet, From the Fires, and Weezer, Pacific Daydream. God, please don't let it go to Weezer. The Pacific Daydream was shit. The White Album was fucking incredible, and I'm quite looking forward to the Black Album coming out next year, but not that. If there's any kind of God, it'll go to Rainier Fog, maybe Prequel. I haven't listened to Greta Van Fleet, it's not my kind of thing, but I think it will go to them. If it goes to Fall Out Boy, nothing is real. And finally, in terms of like the rocky metal sort of stuff, best alternative music album, Arctic Monkeys with Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, Beck with Colours, Utopia by Bjork, David Byrne with American Utopia, and St. Vincent with Mass Seduction. Again, I haven't listened to any of those albums, so I can't comment. But that was the Grammys for this year. I don't know why we try and bother. In fact, yeah, let's move on, because it never goes well for us. Megadeth leader Dave Mustaine says the band are hoping to have a new studio album out in spring of next year. It will be a follow-up to 2016's fairly well-received Dystopia, and as long as it doesn't go down the route of... I was going to call it Sonic Highways, but I don't think that's right. I can't remember what it's called. They did a really shit album. Basically, it was that bad, people were calling it Risk 2.0, which no one ever wants that. It was, of course... Why can Google never be helpful to me? Super Collider! Oh, God, yeah, I remember now. Fuck me, that one was bad. So yeah, hopefully we'll go more towards Dystopia. Or if we're being really, really jammy, maybe another Endgame. But that's unlikely. Brian Seabell says a new Fear Factory album will be coming out in 2019, which is quite surprising because last couple of years there's been rumours of Fear Factory breaking up and just disbanding altogether. Dino Cazares, which is the Fear Factory guitarist, said that there was no news to report about the band. Cazares and Bell both went off to do various different side projects. I know Cazares has been trying to revive Divine Heresy recently. But according to Brian C. Bell, there's a new Fear Factory on the way and hopefully coming out some point next year, which I'll be quite looking forward to that. I didn't mind the last Fear Factory album. Former Motley Crue bassist Nikki Sixx is currently planning a trilogy project out throughout the year of 2019. Comes up after being in the studio with old Crue bandmates Vince Neil, Tommy Lee and Mick Mars. They've been recording some tracks for their biopic that's coming out soon, called The Dirt, and that's out the 22nd of March. I think I read that it was a Netflix exclusive, and they've got one of them from Game of Thrones. I don't watch Game of Thrones. The one that isn't Jon Snow, and the one that isn't the one that everyone hates, but everyone still hates him anyways. Ewan something. He's apparently playing Nikki Sixx. I didn't see it personally, but what do you know? And finally, the sequel we've all been waiting for, apparently. Last week I spoke about how Canadian doom metal band Witchrot split up in spectacular fashion, basically saying how the guitarist said that the bassist said their guitarist had been sleeping with his girlfriend for the past 7 years and decided to split the band, and by the way, our drummer's dead. As it turns out, not all of that is true. So, I'm popping my collar. I don't know why I'm doing that. You can't see that. But I'm popping my collar, basically saying I was right. Their drummer Simon Coe isn't actually dead. The bassist Peter Turek has come out with a brand new statement saying, I posted on Witchrot's Facebook page that the band was taking a break. Two people I cared about stabbed me a trillion times in the heart with betrayal, and that resentment scars like hellfire. God. It obviously left me a little bit wretched. I always hate when bands stop dead without any updates, and I felt I might as well let people know. After writing, I asked Simon, our drummer, who quit a couple weeks prior, if that was a good idea. He said, yeah, but say I died, no one will give a shit. Clearly they did. You don't fucking say. Jurek then says that he's been floored by the amount of support and attention the post has made across the interwebs, i.e. he went viral. And now he's decided to go back on what he said, teaming up with their vocalist Leah, and is currently recording new shenanigans. He says, we booked studio time, and we booked studio time and also decided to recruit some friends to play Lee's Pass in Toronto on December 28th. Of course, now we have big plans to tour extensively in the near future. No sense waiting around, we've had so many talented friends that can easily learn our songs in no time. It's doom metal, I believe what he says. And this, somewhere between this and Threaten is possibly the weirdest story I've read this year, but who am I to judge? New music that came out this week. Children of Bottom released a new song, Under Grass and Clover. It's their first song with ex-Northern guitarist Daniel Freeberg, and their album Hex is coming out, I think it was March next year. Altitudes and Attitude have a new song called Late. I hadn't heard of him either, but that's a new project from Megadeth bassist Dave Ellefson, Anthrax bassist Frank Bello, and a Perfect Circle drummer Jeff Friedel. It's taken from Get It Out, which is out the 18th of January. And finally, Dream Theater have released Untethered Angel, taken from Distance Over Time, out some point next year. And one more album. King Diamond is back, kind of. He's releasing Songs for the Dead Live, a double live album that's going to be, I think it's taken from Grass Pop in 2016, which is a weird thing to want to release, like build up and release and produce, but he's King Diamond, he could do whatever the fuck he wants. He's just had quadruple heart bypass surgery, so he's metal as fuck, I don't care. The album will basically feature Abigail, which is their like seminal album out in recording in full, plus a few more little extras here and there spanning across his discography, including his time with... Oh god, why can't I remember the name? I was going to say Diamond Head, but that's very, very wrong. Fuck! Merciful Fate, thank you, internet, goddamn. You can tell I'm Russian, I can't remember a fucking thing, and I'm dumb. Straight into album reviews then. There was going to be 4, I was trying to get Black Peaks in, but... I do really enjoy the Black Peaks album, and it needs more than just a quick 10 minutes sat on the sofa trying to blot out things as much as possible. So, I'm going to try and get that done for next week, along with the Last Farewell EP and no doubt some others. And then the week after that, I'm probably going to release the top 20 albums of the year. Sounds weird, doing like the top 20 albums of the entire year based on the fact that it'll only be technically episode 3, but hopefully that'll give people a more generalized idea about what's to come in the future from the Desolation Sounds podcast. Right, so album number 1, Disease by Beartooth. It is their 3rd studio album from the American hardcore troupe, and it is the band led by former Attack Attack vocalist, that's the one with 1 exclamation mark, and keyboardist Caleb Shomo, the man with the weird name. I say vocalist, keyboardist, he pretty much did everything towards the end of that band. It's fucking insane. He basically, in the studio, it is all him. But they are technically still a band, so technically, we're saying it's their first album with Master Flames guitarist Zach Huston? I might have that wrong. I thought his name was Hudson. Anyway. When Beartooth first popped onto the scene, it was such a fucking surprise, because Attack Attack pretty much went viral for all the wrong reasons. That first album was pretty dreadful, and the music video that came with it was the one where they were all crapcoring in some park somewhere. It looked fucking awful, and Caleb Shomo was nothing but a just very big fringe on a very small boy. I'm pretty sure I read he joined Attack Attack when he was 14, which is incredible. I wish I was talented at 14 or 24, anything between. They released 3 albums, I believe, altogether, and annoyingly, that last album before their breakup wasn't awful. It was very, like, your bog standard American metalcore thing. But that was when he was properly trying to get the album what he wanted. You can sort of tell where it stopped being a band, started more becoming his thing, and then what eventually became Beartooth. But yeah, This Means War, really, really good collection of songs, and it was back when like synthy metalcore was dying off, but it was still enough of a metalcore album to be called that, and it was just very, very fun. But still, you've got that's the Caleb Showman we had for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden he comes out with Disgusting and the Sick EP, which was punk as motherfucking shit. It was just, and with him taking the lead vocals as well, he'd always had. He's got a very expansive voice. He can do lots of cleans. He can do a variety of different screams and growls, whatever. But with Attack and Attack, it was very much that low metalcore growl with that very big cleans to go alongside it for the choruses. But with Sick and Disgusting, it was very much he screamed on all ends of the spectrum. Kind of used cleans very sparingly, and it just became this full-on attack of the punk spectrum, and it was very, very good. I really, really enjoyed those first two releases, Sick and Disgusting. I found Aggressive quite meh, if I'm completely honest. I do have I've listened to it, and it's just doesn't grip me in the same way Disgusting did or Sick did. And I was having to think about why. And with Aggressive, it was very much paint by numbers, hardcore metalcore again. And I always find when Caleb just does something it almost like what he's supposed to sound like, it comes off sounding quite stale. Like the early, I know he didn't have much more of a voice then, but the early Attack stuff, it's very, it was a mess, let's be honest. And then with Aggressive, it was a case of let's do what metalcore says we need to do, and then it just didn't quite work. Whereas with Disgusting, that latter day Attack album, and with this one, it's very much a case of I want it to sound like this again. I want to do what I want. And fair fucks to him, he's absolutely nailed it. And this album is just, I love this album a lot more than I felt like I was going to, based on what I thought about Aggressive. It is so full of melody, yet so abrasive all at the same time. And again, whereas with Disgusting, it did go from hardcore to metalcore, or almost even to thrash metal at time, or crossover. This has gone kind of the other way, but same sort of concept. So you've got a lot of metalcore stuff, loads of hardcore things, but it's almost easycore album. This breaks into a lot of pop punk stuff. The tone on the guitars sounds like they could easily back up Zakk Wylde. That classic bluesy but really crunchy hard rock kind of sound. Listen to Disease and Believe, it's all over there, and it's got him using his big vocals again, his big clean vocals. And it is it's got so much more of a mainstream appeal, which I was kind of thinking about. It's what's the word I'm trying to think of? Kind of hypocritical with me basically saying I love this because it's so much more mainstream and so much more pop oriented and so much more accessible, whereas last week I was shitting on the Shining album for the exact same reasons. The reason why this differs is with Shining, it was a case of they scrapped everything that made them popular and what got them a fan base and what made them good, and just sort of pandered to what Animals eventually became. Whereas with this, I honestly feel like Caleb has got everything that he wants to do, and just almost melded it to a mainstream appeal because he wanted lots more melody. I feel like he wanted to use his cleans more. Excuse me. And yeah, if you listen to a song from this album completely void, or you just put it in a shuffle with everything Beartooth have ever done, you would still see, oh yeah, this belongs in Beartooth's realm. Whereas I don't think you could have done that with anything from Animals. Sorry. And it's still got, like I said, the faintest whiffs from Attack on Attack. Mostly the huge fucking choruses. American metalcore always has that, the very chuggy fast verses, and it's very stereotypical verse, chorus, breakdown, blah. But just the choruses from Fire and Greatness or Death are the two that I've really picked out. And it's staggering. There's not many vocalists who can do a really powerful scream and then a really powerful clean. Usually you can get one or the other who does like powerful scream but then just like mediocre cleans, or vice versa. And especially, he's 28 years old. Come on! Why can't I be good at things? It's split a lot of, from what I was reading about, it's split a lot of critics and a lot of reviewers based on the fact that, kind of like what I was saying about Sean last night, it's a little bit too mainstream radio. And I kind of see why they think that. I honestly think this is the closest hardcore punk has gotten to the mainstream radio for a very long time. Like, I've read about how bands like the Dead Kennedys and Bad Brains did back in the day, but I feel like that was still counterculture, and that's just, in the years since, we've come to appreciate what they've done. This I could definitely hear, well, definitely imagine seeing some of the softer songs like Disease or Believe on Radio 1, and it doesn't have to be the rock show, it can just be like a bog standard rock song put on there. For better or for worse, I dig it, because as much shit as we give these kind of bands, like Linkin Park towards the end, and this new latter day sort of Bring Horizon sort of stuff, everyone needs that gateway band to get them into the more expansive stuff. Like one of my favorite albums for this year is Zealanada. It is a black metal album with lots of chanting spiritual influences from back, like in the really bad days. And you don't go straight to that. You cannot go straight to that. I remember being a kid listening to Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park, American Idiot, Dead Letters by Erasmus. You need those gateway bands, and I honestly think for people who want to get into punk, this is great. And just fucking listen to Manipulation. The riff on that makes me fucking cry with just excitement, and I don't know. It's so good is what I'm saying. If nothing else, just get it for that. It might be super generic to you. I get that, because it is American hardcore trying to be mainstream, but I think this album is fucking great. If you liked... I'm trying to think about what I could compare it to. If you liked From Death to Destiny by Asking Alexandria, which was their third album, again, really big melodic choruses that you can have arenas and there's crowds of any size to sing back at you. If you're a fan of that, if you're a fan of A Day to Remember, if you're a fan of 4 Year Strong, really recommend this album to you guys. That was Disease by Beartooth. I kind of forgot what I was going to say. Disease by Beartooth. Check it out. If you are a fan of Beartooth already, it's probably closer... I think it does stand alone, actually. I can't say it's closer to... Between Aggressive and Disgusting, I can't really say it's closest from one to the other. It is in the Beartooth hemisphere, but it does stand alone. And it's really, really fucking great. From one former frontman of a band that had a bit of a cult following to another, Hank Von Hell is back again for Turbonegro. I don't know why I keep forgetting my words. Yeah, Hank Von Hell is out with a new album called Egomania. It is the debut solo album from the former Turbonegro frontman. And it's his first bit of musical output since 2011, when he fronted a supergroup called Dr. Midnight and the Mercy Cult, and they released an album called I Declared Treason. And it was very good, actually. I quite enjoyed it. For people who don't know who Hank Von Hell is, he used to be called a variety of names. When he was fronting Turbonegro, he was Hank Von Helvete. And I'm only putting that accent on because I've been to Sweden, don't you know? And I vaguely remember how that word's meant to be pronounced. But basically, he made a career of double entendres, a lot of tongue-in-cheek jokes regarding, first of all, punk rock and how it can be a bit silly sometimes, and then just homosexuality. The way I see Hank is, it's kind of like a punk rock equivalent of Rob Halford, or a punk rock equivalent of Freddie Mercury, except Hank likes girls. That's pretty much the only difference, absolutely. And he wore more face paint. Egomania carries a lot of that trademark Turbonegro sound. There's a lot of glam in it, so much glam. Lots of glam, lots of hard rock punch, that underlay and that little grittiness of punk rock, but it's got the modern production for today. And over time, I've realised I've become a lot more of a production snob, so I do enjoy the mixing and the production for this album. And it feels like every time you press play, by the time you finish the album, you're expected to wake up face down in a Brighton nightclub with a pocket full of bags of 2Ps. It is just so sleazy. I'll happily say I've never been a big fan of the glam metal scene, particularly from the 70s and 80s. Excuse me. Because it, again, contradicts everything you just said, but it leans, too close to that, like, poppy, uber clean sound. And when I say this, I'm thinking of bands like Poison and I can't remember the other one, Skid Row. If it was gritty like this, which I know is like, technically it's glam punk or whatever. If it was gritty like this, I feel like A, glam metal in general would be a completely different beast, and B, I think I'd be all over that. I'd be walking out and about wearing skinnier trousers, like leather leopard print trousers. No one wants that, but I'll rock it. Lyrically, it's still completely ridiculous. Oh my god. So the opening track is called Pretty Decent Exposure. That is a song about walking around town with your dick out. And then the follow-up to that is a track called Blood, and it is the cheesiest brass-backed track, which is really difficult to say, that's why I had to slow down a bit. And it's all about menstruation. So you've got, it's all encompassing. You've got, if you're a lady person or if you're a manly person, you've got a bit for everything. I was having a look at finding out what other people thought about this album, because Turbonegro has a very cult following. Their fan base is called I think it's a Turbo Jugend, something like that. And it's to the point where they get together once a year and they hold like a mini festival that Turbonegro play pretty much every year. They get a variety of different acts in to play as well. They have such a strong, very serious following. And I feel like everyone who's out, a lot of the reviews I've seen that are completely outside the bubble just say it's too daft, it's too this, it's too that. This is absolutely not an album to be taken seriously. It's the sort of thing you have on in the background of a party, or if you're doing something else you just want like the filter noise. It's just, you can tap your foot to it, you can sing along to it. It is such a fun album, and it's becoming very difficult to find fun albums. Like, put it on the same line as Andrew WK. Like, I must admit, I wasn't a big fan of his album that came out last year. But that, just a general essence of, you put it on just to chill out, just to have a bit of a laugh, have a bit of fun. And I feel that's glossed over a lot of people on this one. But if you do want to look at like the serious intricacies of this album, the guitar work on here is just fucking incredible. It's a newer guitar, I think it's a completely new guitar. It's called Cat Casino, or that's what the name she's been going by. And for a guitarist who, from what I understand, has no other notes or no other like releases under her belt, to work with Hank, they've never worked before, obviously. Hank's got such a like back catalogue of releases. I think Turbonegro's first album was 94, I think. It's like 20 plus year lineage. To work with him straight away as your first project, they work together so well. And she keeps things so interesting without taking away from the star of the show, which is obviously Hank, and complements him so well. The song at the end, the album closer, Adios, Where's My Sombrero, it sounds like if Fallout was ever set in Mexico. First half of the song is a very slow paced, on a steel guitar, just you can almost feel yourself just like milling about somewhere. And the second half of it is borderline thrash metal song. And that helps it. For the isolated song, it's really great. As a whole, for the album, the contradiction between her and Hank with the upbeat, cheesy songs, so things like Blood and Wild Boy Blues, which are fucking great song. It is intermixed with very like slower pace. It's songs that sound serious, but when you read the lyrics, you realize that he's just a bit of a daft bastard. But for example, you've got the song Bum to Bum, which is the lead single. That is a very upbeat hard rock song. Then you've got Never Again, which is a very slow, bluesy, heavy metal song. And then you're on Bomb Walk Chic, which is a very like glammy, upbeat song again. And there's a couple of songs that do what Never Again do. They just sort of slow the pace down after you've spent all this time getting really, really into it. And it does hurt it a little bit. Not... Yeah, it does hurt it, because you kind of want to keep it going. It's kind of like a party. You do want to keep it going, keep the excitement up, and then you've got one person who keeps talking about his girlfriend that left him. That's a bummer, dude. Take that shit out elsewhere. I'm sorry, I don't care about feelings. I compared this to the more recent Turbonegro stuff. I haven't listened to the new album, because I did not realize they released one. Apparently Turbonegro released an album this year. Who knew? So I went back to the first album they did with Tony Sylvester, who was the replacement for Hank in Turbonegro, called Sexual Harassment. And listen to Sexual Harassment now, you kind of feel like something is missing. And I think it's down to the vocal delivery. So whereas Hank is very... You can tell he's like a punk vocalist, but his delivery in his vocals... It's almost camp, which is a weird thing to say. It's very... No matter the song, he's even got a song called like All My Friends Are Dead and Dead M Demon and I Got Erection. Every single song, it's a very whimsical, very light-hearted delivery, whereas Tony Sylvester is by the sound of it, he's a really good punk vocalist, but he just doesn't fit. For me at least, I might be completely off, but for me, he just doesn't fit quite right in that very flamboyant, very easygoing Turbonegro sound that made them famous. Might just be me. It's probably unfair because, like I said, Sexual Harassment was released in 2011, 2012, early 2010s, which is a weird thing to say. And so it's probably unfair to judge him based on record number one with his new band. So I might try and find a Turbonegro one and report back, but I think this album is just hilarious fun. Not to the point where it's a comedy album, but yeah, if you're a fan of that old school Turbonegro sound, I really think you'll enjoy this. If you're a fan of Steel Panther, more the sound over the vocal lines again. Like I said, Hank Von Hell doesn't take himself too seriously, but I would not say this is a comedy album. And also Volbeat as well, I found myself drawing comparisons to, based on how Volbeat can do that pretty chill hard rock sound, but still have like enough of a heavy metal backing to really bring it along. But yeah, Turbonegro, Steel Panther, Volbeat. If you like any of them, I reckon you're really be into Hank Von Hell with Egomania. And yeah, like I said, it was going to be 4 albums. I'm just going to end it on Bury Tomorrow now, because I feel like Black Peaks needs more said about it than just it were really good and then fuck off. So stick to Bury Tomorrow, which, as I was trying to work... The reason why everything got so delayed is because I re-listened to Black Flame, which is album number 5 for the Metalcore Quintet. And I completely changed my... Well, not completely, but I really, really changed my opinions on this. So, when Bury Tomorrow were becoming a really big thing, it was like... So I'm thinking album 2 was when people really started to notice, in my opinion, which was Union of Crowns. Metalcore was in such a weird state. You had While She Sleeps released their debut, which was This Is the Six, which was fantastic. Architects were back from the follow-up of The Here and Now, which was Daybreaker, which was fantastic. And you had Brotherhood of the Lake, a new up-and-coming band again with this very dark, decrepit version of hardcore, with Desperation is the English Way, Volume 1, also very, very good. That was sort of like bringing in a revival for metalcore after years of it, people saying that's not metal, or it's not good, or it's this, that, or the other. Basically, it's all fringes, which I will make fun of a lot. But these sort of bands were bringing the revival. At the same time, there were bands who were still leaving it quite stagnant and boring. You had Amity Affliction with Chasing Ghosts, and Axe Wound as well with Vultures, and a plethora of other bands who were just very much, this is metalcore, we're going to do that, and that's about it. It was just very... Because I think it was around this time, Attack, that's the same as before, released... so this is now? I've forgotten what it's called already. This Means War. Don't know where I got that from. Yeah, that was released in 2012 as now. So same year as Union of Crowns, we had This Means War. A very good album, but again, you're like, an okay album. That's got a bit ahead of myself there. A very okay album, but it just... metalcore all the time, like I said. You had the one side of Revival, this one where it's this side of it, which is very long, straight line. And the bands that were doing something different were very... they were received in very mixed degrees. So you had Eskimo Callboy with Bury Me in Vegas, which got shat on because it's just very uber synthy metalcore. At the same time, you had Issues with their Black Diamonds EP, also doing very uber synthy metalcore, but made it look so cool, bringing that R&B flair to it and kind of bringing in this newer age that we've seen more couple of years, or more recent years, sorry, of this new metalcore. And at the same time, you had, well, around this time, sorry, you had Daggers by Defiled, which remains one of my favourite albums of all time. Why did they split up? So yeah, Union of Crowns, I feel like, sat somewhere in the middle of all this. It was part of the British-led revival of very good, very hooky metalcore. It still stayed with the verse, chorus, structure of like the stagnancy, and then when it's something different, the clean vocalist Jason Cameron had just, for me, just that little bit. He had like a gritty clean that could have absolutely, it obviously belongs in metalcore, but at the same time it could have easily belonged in pop, which I'll talk about more in a bit. And over the years, they just got like Buried Tomorrow just got better and better. Runes, everyone's thought was like a one-up from Union of Crowns. I wasn't into it that much, so that meant I ended up just glossing over the next album, which was Earthbound. Earthbound, everyone says, is so far like Buried Tomorrow's peak. That's the part where they could be held in the same regard as your bands like While She Sleeps, an Architect, well, maybe an Architect, but shoulder to shoulder with UK metalcore brethren. That was the album that people thought, yes, you belong here. And so for this album, it's a follow-up from Earthbound. Like I said, I don't know if I'm in a good position or a bad position to be able to compare it to Earthbound based on the fact I haven't heard it. I've basically just got to go on how a modern day Buried Tomorrow, their first album on is it Music for Nations? Nation of Music, Music of Nations? The new label, essentially, after leaving I think it was Napalm. Or no, Nuclear Blast, I think. And this, it takes a few listens to get on board. I've had this sat in my phone and my to listen list for about 2 months, 3 months, because when you listen to it isolated, like when you're shuffling through, you hear a very initially what you think is a very basic metalcore song. You think, oh, just get around to it. Sitting down and listening to this album is a completely different experience. There's so much more melodic death metal in this, which is what I've always thought. There's always two kinds of metalcore. You've got the metallic hardcore, so you Converge, you While She Sleeps, that kind of thing, or you've got the newer, like American influence metalcore, which is hardcore. You've got like verse, chorus, like the roughs and then the cleans, but it's very Swedish death metal influence. This has got no less violent, sorry, which is the opener, I think. It's the song that everyone's been asking In Flames to write for nearly 10 years. since Sounds of a Playground Fading, the album just, that song just absolutely smashes. The guitar work on there, which I'll go into a little bit more in a bit, is fucking phenomenal. Knife of Gold that starts with blast beats and a really, really like sickening scream from Daniel Winter Bates. And then finally, Stormbringer is a full-on thrash melodic onslaught. It's up in the extremity of the album, well, like of their back catalogue, so much. And like I was saying, the riffs in this album, like there's one, I think the main riff in the verses for Peacekeeper easily could live on Holy Hell, which I think for a metalcore band is like the peak at the moment, because Architects are definitely up there. And I think, well, the vocals on this album, they contrast each other, which is what a good metalcore, this kind of metalcore album should do, but they are not abrasive and they don't clash at all, or they clash in a negative way, I should say. You've got, like I said, Daniel Winter Bates, he's the harsh vocalist. I feel like with this album he's got a lot more natural range. He can go to growls and screams quite fluidly. Reminds me of, again, I'm going to bring it back to Asking Alexandria, reminds me of Danny Warsnop, around that sort of era where you could bounce between two very well. And then you've got Jason Cameron, who does the cleans. Still, I honestly think he could, I was trying to think who I would love him in the world of like mainstream and pop, that sort of thing, who I'd love him to do collaboration with. And I honestly think he could sit shoulder to shoulder with Hoosier. I was listening to it just before recording, just trying to like, obviously make notes down. That's why, like I said, it was a bit delayed. And initially I thought I preferred Beartooth, and now I just don't know. Overcast, which I think is the album ender. No, it's not. It's the second to last. And the chorus on there is huge. It is so, so good. And he just sounds so emotive as he sings. And it's just, I'm down for it. It's a weird thing. I'm down for this. I honestly think that they've got the production and the mixing, particularly the mixing of this album, so on point. Particularly with so the lead single, the title track, Black Flame, the chorus on that, you've got Jason obviously singing his part. You've got Daniel underneath with growls, and that works really well together. And then Jason will stop, and then they'll mix up Daniel again, so he'll do the Black Flame. And then it goes back to the other way around. They know who needs to be the center point of every part of a song. And like I said, I was trying to figure out, initially I preferred Beartooth, because I've always preferred much more punk rock kind of things. But now, listen to it again, I cannot pick between the two, because they are so, so good, but in totally different ways. I was trying to think, if you're a fan of Killswitch Engage, Parkway Drive, or I'd even say Miss May I, because Miss May I have been getting progressively better over the last few albums. If you're a fan of any of those guys, do check out Black Flame. If you just like British fueled metalcore and like the Swedish melodeath scene, and if you're like me, who's a bit cynical about that kind of metalcore, because I know I'll keep bringing it back to Union Crowns. As good as that was, it did have moments where it was like, this is very black and white, and that's kind of what I felt about Runes. Like I said, I missed Earthbound. If you're a fan of that, or if you've always been quite cynical about that kind of metalcore, I get it, but I think this album, it won't come immediately. Like I said, it took me 3 months to start actually listening to it. I think I've been listening to it on and off for about 2 weeks. And it's only about an hour ago where it clicked and went, oh shit, this is. I'd highly recommend it. Bury Tomorrow, Black Flame. And yeah, unfortunately, I was going to do Black Peaks as well with All That Divides. I am not very good at time management, so that'll probably come next week. This has been Desolation Sound Podcast. I am on all sorts of different social medias. This week we've been looking at Beartooth Disease, Hank Von Hell, Egomania, and Bury Tomorrow, Black Flame. It's been a very good week. Next week, like I said, Black Peaks, and I think I'm going to do Last Farewells EP, which is a very indie post-hardcore album. Think a much more aggressive version of Touche Amore. That's going to come next week. And yeah, feel free to get in touch. But until next week, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.